All right. So to get us started, we're going to be picking up with the requirements area. This is going to be all of your purchasing options. So these are all items that are necessary for fulfilling orders. So these, again, on the requirement screen would be things that have not been purchased yet. As you saw with Chris's training last time that we did a advanced user forum, you can set a preferred vendor on your sales order for each of the lines. Generally, this requirements screen will most of the time pick up your preferred vendor by default, unless you've manually selected a different vendor within the sales order, as Chris showed you. Any of those preferences or alternatives that you've set on a sales order, all that feeds into the requirements, which populates this screen here. And so in your requirements screen, I know those of y'all that do the purchasing each day probably want to make your job go as fast as possible and want a quick and easy way to do some of your purchasing. So today we're going to cover some of those tips and tricks. We'll be going over tips on how to change vendors en masse, how to switch to alternative products, and even changing delivery types on these requirement lines. Hopefully this will save you some valuable time and make your daily purchasing routines a little bit smoother. Again, a reminder, Mike is available in the chat to answer your questions as I cover our content on screen. You'll be able to access that chat by hovering over the bottom border of the display window and click on the link to the chat pop-up. After I cover the content for today, we'll unmute everybody and open up the floor for about 15 minutes of Q&A. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started with today's tips and tricks. So starting off in our requirements screen, we can go into one of these requirements and you'll be able to see what we're going to talk about today. So in addition to vendor information, as well as purchasing costs and everything that has been pulled in from the sales order, you'll notice that here at the bottom, we have an alternatives tab. So if you have this product available from multiple vendors and multiple pack sizes, you'll see some alternatives here in the bottom. Now, these aren't exact alternatives. They could be similar pack sizes, similar colors, similar content. For example, this is a file folder that has a specific size, but you have other sizes and other pack sizes and other colors available here at the bottom. You'll notice that those product codes are slightly different. But if you decide that the customer is just wanting something that is close enough, you can select any of these, and what it will do is change it over to that other product. So if we decide that this letter-sized folder here, this BSN product, is good enough for the customer, you can select that in your requirement, and it will give you a confirmation to ask if you are sure you want to change it. Now, once you do change it, this will write back to the sales order and show the customer that the different code has been purchased for this item. So just be aware that if you do find a product that you like that is close enough to what they were looking for, or say in the instance that SP Richards didn't have this item available and you want to get them something that is close enough, you will be able to let them see what product they ended up getting on the requirement, which will feed to the sales order and all the way to the invoice. So if you do select any alternatives, just know that that will write back. Another reminder, we've got the chat available for if you have other further questions, and we'll do some more clarification on this afterwards. But that is alternatives. You'll be able to see those if they have loaded something in from your supplier catalog. They will show up in here, and that will again be showing things that are similar in pack size or color or a close alternative. Now, moving on to the next part, we also wanted to go over some of our delivery methods. So in these requirements, we also have an area for receipt to. Now, this receipt to is determining where you are going to have the item received into, as in where it's going to arrive from the vendor. Now, in this dropdown, it is a bit of a pullover from the UK servers when they first designed this. They have some terminology here. Each of these terms stands for a different delivery method. OTH stands for other. That's what they have used for their dropship items. So for those of us here in the US, we'll be using that OTH to refer to those dropship orders. The PWL is for pick, wrap, label. So for here in the US, that'd be wrap and pack delivery methods, and SDK for your stock. That part has stayed consistent. So if you do need to change a delivery method for one particular item, say since we've got this alternative coming in and we want to make sure that it is good to go for the customer, if we want to select the stock delivery method, then that will change just this line on the sales order to be a stock delivery, and then we would expect to see it arrive on a truck to our warehouse. So if we change this method, all you do is select the row here, and you'll see that we've got our opportunity to save the changes. Once we have saved those, it will then update this to be a stock requirement, and it will receipt it to that headquarters. So that's just changing the delivery method for one line in a purchase order, in a sales order. If you do decide that you want to do this on multiple lines and you need to do a little bit of manipulation just to make sure that all the items arrive where they're supposed to, things happen, plans change, delivery methods change all the time. This is just another opportunity for you to be able to apply those changes before you go and do your purchasing. Now, one more time, we do also have the chat available. So if you have any further questions and need clarification before I get to the Q&A, feel free to drop those in there. The last thing that I wanted to go over is going over some of our mass purchasing options. So I know that some of y'all have experienced where you might want to buy an item from a vendor that's not listed, or it's not set up as a default vendor against a bunch of products, or you just notice that, say, all of the items in your requirements don't have vendors assigned to them yet. So if we wanted to sort by our vendors and see which ones are left blank, we'll notice that we have some options here like our miscellaneous items and these 3M products. They don't have a vendor assigned to them. So instead of going into each one of them and double clicking in and changing the vendor like you might have seen before, like say we wanted to do SP Richards on this one, you can go in and change it individually like that. Or if you wanted to select all of them, we do have a shortcut that will help you to build a PO for all these items. So what we can start out with is we look for SP Richards, and we will find that vendor up here in the top left corner. And all I've done is search for that vendor. You can do it by the account code or the name. And we've highlighted the rows that we want to work with here. So if we want to grab all of these items, or even just a couple of them, let's say we wanted to grab these 3 items and we wanted to buy them all from SP Richards. Now hitting the purchase button is going to build an outstanding purchase order for all of those items. So it's going to grab these 3 and put them on a PO for SP Richards. So once we do the purchasing option, you'll see that it'll give us a confirmation and show it's been completed. Now we have an outstanding PO for SP Richards, and it should have all of our items on it. So that will, it will consolidate it, and because I didn't have different delivery methods, it might have split that up. But as we showed before, you can change each of those requirements, and you can change the delivery methods. So since these guys are both wrap and pack, and I wanted to grab both of these, SP Rich, I'll show that one more time. We can grab these couple of items, hit our purchase, confirm OK. And now when we go into our orders, we'll have our miscellaneous item, and they'll be on a purchase order for SP Richards. So those are the basic tips that I wanted to go over. I did want to mention as well that for those of y'all that are going to be doing a lot of purchasing, you do also have some tools down here at the bottom. We've got some buttons for all kinds of options like bulk purchasing. If you have any full carton accounts or any other accounts that you typically buy things in bulk on, you can use the bulk purchase button. We also have a check inventory button, which will check from your available vendors, DCs, what all is in stock. You do also have an inventory reordering. So for those of y'all that keep track of a certain amount of stock and you want to be alerted when something reaches a minimum level, we have options for reorder levels, and we have options for minimum orders. And anything that is flagged under that and is under that minimum will show up in this inventory reordering. We also have the allocate and part allocate options. Most of our US users, in fact, I think all of y'all have a auto allocate function that is turned on. But if you ever notice that something is, say, being manually purchased, or you're doing a manual purchase order to assign things, you will be using some of these allocate and part allocate buttons, which if you need any further clarification on, we have fresh desk articles as well as agents available to go over that. So you can feel free to follow up with a question on that. We do also have a request from main warehouse. For those of y'all that have multiple locations, you can choose to shuffle around some inventory by using that button, which will allow you to take some of these requirements and essentially pull from other depots to fulfill these orders, if that is something that is, feasible and within your delivery areas. We do also have an allocate from future inventory for anything that's on an outstanding purchase order that has not been pre-booked. What it can do is grab any of these requirements and it can allocate it to that future inventory before it's even checked in. So it will get it off of this purchasing screen and no one buys it mistakenly. Lastly, we have a stock take button, and this is just a shortcut for doing those stock takes that you might have done before. Again, this stock take is just to manually adjust your levels to correct any shortages or mark things down if they are incorrect on your levels. This will just help you do a little bit of inventory management from this screen. So those are most of the tips that I wanted to cover today. I know we've covered a couple of different topics, so we'll be opening up the floor to questions momentarily. I will briefly stop sharing for a moment so that I can unmute everyone, and then I will go ahead and
you are unmuted.
Back on. So now everyone has been unmuted, and I will go back to sharing. We'll open up the floor for a little bit of discussion. So are there any questions that anyone wants to start out with?
Patrick, just while people are thinking about questions and stuff, on that last option, stock take, just so people are aware, it's really, sometimes you'll have in the list that you want one of this item or two, and it says you haven't got any available, and you have. It's just a very quick way of fulfilling that. So basically, it's doing a stock take and increasing your inventory by, as default, it would increase your inventory by. So if you selected, say, the second line down with 2 in there, if you felt, oh, well, it's a dropship one, so you wouldn't do it in this case. Maybe the standard one, first standard one, yeah. So there's 3 required, and you say, I definitely know I've got 3 of them, the stock's wrong, yeah. If you click stock take, it will actually automatically, as default, create 3 in this warehouse, yeah. And so all you'd have to do is click complete. But if you want to put more in, and actually you knew you had 10 of them, you could change the amount to 10. But it's just a very quick way, and it will journal who's done that. So you've got a record of exactly who made that change, when it was done, the date, time, and that's kept in the journals. It's a very useful feature when you see some stock discrepancy and you want to get something out quickly. Yeah. Okay, I just want to make that point on that one.
Yeah, and something else to keep in mind, if you do open up the stock take, you will want to complete that immediately after.
I got some good news and I got some
doesn't
bad
stop
news.
people from being able
I like
to
this chair, so you can't have it back.
Okay, I brought, the good news is I brought the chair back, but the bad news, Carol wants to send it out, so.
Oh, that's fine. I sat in this chair and I'm like, wow, I actually like this chair better.
I think, Patrick, you need to probably mute everybody. Just talk.
Sorry, guys. Side conversation.
Was that you, Jeff?
It was. Yeah, someone stole my chair and I like the replacement better.
But I'm sure someone can sell you a chair while you're on, yeah.
For sure.
Okay.
All right, so I will temporarily mute everybody, and if you do have a question, feel free to unmute yourself.
a couple of things I noticed just worth mentioning was that, I mean, the default is to automate the process and to effectively the majority of your ordering from, say, SP or Ascendant, that's wrap and pack or drop ship, should be automatically being sent out, you know, on the hour or whatever your schedule
Yes.
is. So therefore, what Patrick's really talking about here is for dealing with the exceptions more, or the manual ones that you haven't got an EDI process with. And for example, when you selected them, normally they will just go straight off if it's an EDI account. You don't have to actually go into the purchase order. You're just really showing those features. Recently, we put an extra field in here just so everyone's aware of it. We now show the sales price, so you can see, you know, what it's been sold for on the sale. And if you do select alternatives, it does write it back to the actual sales order, so you know exactly what has been swapped out on that order.
Yeah, if you don't already have any automation or auto purchasing schedules set up, feel free to reach out to us and we can help set that up. It basically provides a set of criteria and rules for determining what is available for the auto purchase. Say, for example, you want your SP Richards accounts, anything that falls under this particular account and is a drop ship item. Say you want to schedule that for 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and 5 o'clock Eastern. You can set that schedule up and it will automatically run and pick up criteria that meets those rules. So if you do want to set up something like that, feel free to reach out to us. We can help you set that up. Did anyone have any other questions about what we covered today? Just to recap, we covered applying a vendor to multiple lines at a time to do a purchase order for multiple items that may not have had a vendor. To clarify, you can even use that to overwrite what vendor has already been selected. Say if you wanted to grab all of these items and buy them from SP Richards instead of Ascendant, you can still do the same trick and it will build a purchase order for those items despite it already having Ascendant selected as the vendor for those. We did also go over swapping the delivery types. So if you wanted to swap all of these dropship ones to be standard so that you can buy them all on the same purchase order from a different vendor, you can do that on a line level, and that's done with each of these requirements. We also covered those alternatives, which, as Steve mentioned, right back to the sales order, and we'll apply that change so that the customer can see what it is they actually got.
Question real quick.
Mm-hmm.
You, in regards to swapping that that delivery method, so you just said that you can do it on a line level. So after the PO has been done and you go into orders, are you able to change the delivery method there? It also changes the entire order as opposed to just by line level.
So if you had, say, all of these items that you wanted to swap over to be standard, a trick that we also can cover is that you could build a outstanding purchase order for Ascendant here and grab this item onto it. And that will allow you to, if you had like multiple items on that other sales order and wanted to grab, say, those other 3 items, you can go into that purchase order. And now that we've created the outstanding one that has the shipping method of standard. Oh, this is opening the other one that I just did. Pardon me. So if we wanted to grab that and use our buy more button here, you could grab other lines that are looking for Ascendant, and you can grab all of these items and add them to the standard purchase order, and that will then make them all standard as well. So with the requirements, as you add those changes and make changes to each of those requirements, they could be, splitting up sales orders, delivery methods, things like that. But the requirements is what's determining the type of purchase order you want to build. Obviously, if you have all of them as drop ship and they're all going to different locations, you've seen that it will split up those purchase orders and make sure that it's delivering X product to X location, Y product to Y location, and Z product to Z location. However, using this method, if you were to build an outstanding purchase order and then use the buy more button, you could grab X, Y, and Z and change their delivery methods to all consolidate into one PO. Some people might use that to meet order minimums or get items from multiple orders to the same customer.
Just as an aside there, Carly was saying, can you change it in the purchase order? You can actually change from drop ship to wrap and pack, and wrap and pack to drop ship on an order. You can do that.
You can or cannot?
Say again?
You can or cannot?
You can, yeah.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah.
Okay.
But sometimes you can't change from standard back, because obviously if it's already standard and it can be consolidated with, say, an inventory reordering, then that trick that Patrick showed there means that you can change one line to drop ship and then add all the other lines that were previously standard and turn them to drop ship. So it's only really for that case. So most of the time you can change it because you'd want to go, the van's full, I'm going to send it drop ship. So I think that's what you mean, really, Lisa, isn't it? Yeah, that type of thing.
Yeah. I was asking if you have 4 items on the requirement screen, all for the same customer, and it's tagged as wrap and pack, but I decide I want to change the whole order to a drop ship. Do I have to go into every single line and do that and then create the PO, or can I just change it?
In that case, you can just build it and change it. Yeah. Just build the order as wrap and pack and then change it to drop ship. Yeah.
And then change it to drop ship once I've built the PO?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Okay, and that's where this receipt to is? That's where you change that?
Yes, that's what this drop down is.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep, and just another reminder, the OTH is for drop ship for other, PWL is for pick, wrap, label, or wrap and pack, and your STP is your stock.
Okay, so you can change it both at the line level and at the PO level. Okay.
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you.
So however you need to shuffle that around to get the customer their products, we've got the flexibility to accommodate both sides of the aisle.
Okay.
Another aside there, Jonathan was asking us for a change. We've now got they call it reference ID because the majority of the time the purchase order may be for a drop shippers. So you've got the sales order number in the third column, it says reference ID just above the weight. In the next version, that's been by request from Jonathan as Office Source. We've added that into the last column, and there's also a filter search for it. So you can search for stock purchase orders, or you can search for drop ship, or by the actual order number or the reference. Yeah. So we've added in the advanced filters quite a few. If you just click into the advanced filter, in there you've got source, and it says halfway down it says that's where you put the number, but it works independently, and it also shows you in the grid in the next version. So you can search on them now, but it's you can't see the actual number in the grid, which will make it easier. Just sort of mention that so you can look out for it. It only works at the moment if you really know your number already, so you could, because you can't see it in the grid. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, right now it's just pulling the hour reference part, but we will have the.
Yeah, it's got the number there. So if you were to put it's from sales 16442, it would actually find the purchase order, but that wasn't very flexible. So we put it in the grid, and all you have to do in the future is just put that number in, and you can find it. So in the next version, you can do it now by doing what you did there, but yeah, it's showing it in vendor ref, but it'll actually show the sales order number. So anyone out there who, as a general thing, if people feel, and I know dealers are doing it now, but if you feel there's something that's frustrating for you, just let us know about it, and the team will record it and pass it on to development. So we're constantly trying to improve and make your life easier. And as I say, that was something as an example that was requested and done quite quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, and in addition to those kinds of reports, feedback, quality of life updates, things like that are all run by y'all's input. So if you have something that you'd like to see on, say, one of these advanced user forums, or if you have a suggestion for an improvement to one of these systems, feel free to get that feedback to us, either through Freshdesk or through an email, or even just giving us a call. Feel free to talk it out. We'll get it reported to development. We'll get it onto the roadmap, and see if we can, gradually improve this every single day.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Just a reminder, we host these. We're going to be hosting these advanced user forums on the 2nd and 4th Fridays of each month. So in a couple weeks, you can tune in again, and we'll have some more helpful tips. Again, if you have any suggestions for future ones, or if there's anything in particular that you want to see, we've already gotten some feedback from a couple of y'all that have suggested some topics, which we are formulating and setting up scripts for. If you have those suggestions, feel free to pass that on to us, and we'll get that into the rotation. Another reminder, we'll be uploading these to our YouTube channel, Prima Software US, for you to review. Again, pay a visit, like, comment, subscribe. You'll be able to view our training resources as we upload them and be notified of any new additions. I believe that I've also included a link in the chat that Mike can post for us. Is there any other questions that anyone had that have not been answered in, say, the chat, or just want to ask everyone as a group?
Can I just ask one other one? And I'm sorry, we're new, so I don't really, I'm just trying to get my bearings here. Can you just explain what the R reference and the vendor reference are?
Yes. Yeah, so for the purchase orders, the R reference part is coming from, say, if you had put on a sales order, if you put a customer reference field, it's pulling this information through so that you have an internal number to look things up with.
Okay.
For example, this particular customer does a PO confirmation number. So with them, they gave their own confirmation number of 4321.
Okay.
And that customer passed that on to you guys. So now that our reference is pulled through, so you've got something internal. Now the vendor reference is going to be pulling from whatever sales order. By default, it will pull the sales order number in there, and it will have that auto loaded for you. If you want to overwrite that and give the vendor a different reference number, or if you want to get confirmation from them of whatever confirmation number they've given you, that can fill in there. Now, for all of these POs, if you did transmit it electronically, Ascendant or SP Richards will be filling in some of those confirmation numbers themselves. You'll notice that in, say, the packed reference, as well as the reference ID, as well as your date received and estimated delivery dates, those all get pulled through from your acknowledgement file.
So the vendor reference is going to be the acknowledgement number from the wholesaler?
Yes. So
if it's a transmitted order?
Yeah.
Right. So when you transmit it electronically, they'll be filling in whatever their confirmations are, and we pick that up from the acknowledgement file.
Okay.
Just something I noticed there, Patrick, and because I think I changed it on this. There's a system key which will also add in your web store reference as well. So this one's got a double reference on it, which you would normally just see PO 4321. Okay, whatever the customer had put on their web order, for example, or something like that. But there's a system key to actually use the internal. If it's more for third-party web stores, that really. So normally you just see the first part of that, and that
if
system.
Your customer submits something online and they place one through your web store and they type in 4321 or this 1STC001, if they have some long chain of alphanumeric characters they want to do, that can pull into the PO and the sales order as well.
No, I think the second part is just, it's unusual because we don't normally have it there. It's actually the reference from the, it's like the reference of the web store. So if the customer typed in a reference, they would type in PO4321. It would go into the sales order and it would show on the purchase order as PO4321. The second bit is just linking the two together, really. So most of the time, that's not really relevant for dealers.
Okay. Yeah, just a reminder, this is our demo database, so we throw a lot of stuff into it. So if you're seeing some weird numbers or anything like that, it could just be a product of all of the things we've been testing and new features that we have rolled into it. As always, we're trying to improve this every single day. So every time that we get a new feature, we try to test it extensively before releasing it. That's why you get a rolling schedule of these enhancements and updates.
Just if you could go into requirements again, just find, and I know people are just kind of drifting off now, don't blame them. But if you go into requirements, there's a column in there called cheaper. And just obviously, yes means there's cheaper equivalent items. We also have the double stars, which means there's alternatives available. And the BK means that there's bulk buying about. So basically, there's carton packs and things that you can actually make use of. It's not really relevant for dropship, I suppose, because well, it might be relevant. I don't know, but not normally. But
so like these standard ones, that
certainly if the wrap and pack or standard, then that bulk becomes, and that means that you can then use it's the subject. You could then use the bulk purchase options, and that would consolidate and build an order based on your on all your bulk requirements within that buying session. So it'll show you your savings and what packs, what cartons are available, and it will actually also swap to the different SP Richards or the different Ascendant account in order to get those prices. And we've recently added onto the PO the ability to not only see the account number and swap automatically, but we've added the ability to actually see all the different, so you can actually set the DC you want the item to come from, or so you can override the options. So that was a nice feature we added recently onto the purchase order itself. Not many people again use that, but sometimes if you want to specifically allocate stock from one DC, or you wanted to change the account on certain line, you've got further options.
Patrick, you mentioned that you could set inventory minimums on the inventory reordering button down there. If you go below the minimum, does it automatically create a requirement for you, or does it just notify you on the dashboard? How does that work?
So we can get into that a little bit more. I'll follow up with you on it.
Okay.
Basically, you do set those up on the item level. Whenever you have something get below a minimum, it will suggest it in your inventory reordering area. So on this training database, we've got a couple of options where we had set minimum levels and keep a certain amount of stock of it. This can work like a suggested PO, where you have anything that's below the minimum will show up in that top list. You can select each of the ones that you want to do and build a purchase order for it. So a couple of our dealers have been using this as like the suggested PO, as I mentioned, and they're basically keeping their warehouse stock levels as up to date as they possibly can.
And those suggested POs show up where? Like how does the buyer notify that you're below minimum?
So that's all going to be if you're checking in on this. So if you
So you have to hit the button. You have to hit the button every day and check.
Yes.
Oh.
We don't have any automated reports that would show that yet. That is something if that's of interest to people, we can put in the notes. I can jot that down for future enhancement updates.
Yeah, I think that'd be good. I don't do purchasing, but I know I would forget to go into that button every day and check if something needed me to look at it.
Okay. I'll make note of that.
I think one of the problems with stock reordering is some things are automatic, but usually people want to have a check on them because they can end up, purchasing stuff they really don't want. I've seen some
Yeah,
people.
for sure. I was just thinking maybe on the dashboard there'd be a flag saying, "Hey, go check the
Yeah, it's a good
inventory
idea,
reorder."
actually. Yeah, we should really just, as a reminder, and then it just changed colour. So I've made a note of that. Good suggestion. Okay. So what it could do is maybe just whenever something in the current list, for example, it could go one colour, and if there's general stock reordering to do, go another colour, and then if there's nothing, just remain. So as soon as you've done the stock reorder, then everything's been replenished, if you like.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, that's the kind of feedback we welcome on these forums. Feel free to pass that kind of information to us. Yeah, we want to make your jobs easier, and we want to make the software as good as possible. So we welcome that kind of suggestion. We have run a little bit over, so we'll be logging off momentarily. Just again, we will be uploading this. Feel free to drop by our YouTube channel or follow up with us on Freshdesk if you need any other questions answered or want to look up any more information about this. We'll be in touch shortly, and we'll be doing this again in a couple weeks. I believe we're going to be going over some web options, so you should be seeing some literature coming your way about what the topics for the next advanced user forum are going to be. And we will be able to see y'all in a couple of weeks. I thank everybody that came in, had great questions. For those of y'all that have worked with the chat, talked to Mike to get some questions answers. Those are much appreciated as well. And every time that we host these, we're also taking into account the types of questions y'all are asking, and we'll try to, supplement this with more information on our Freshdesk articles, as well as knowing what we want to focus for our future training sessions. So every bit of feedback helps. We appreciate everybody's participation, and thank you for joining us on a Friday. We hope you guys have a great afternoon and a great weekend, and we'll be available if you need us.
You too. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Y'all have a good one.